It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, January 7th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. We'll see some morning fog, then cloudy this afternoon, high 48. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 37, and then Thursday just a little bit warmer, sunshine, high 49. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 34 cloudy in Spring Valley up in Rockland County, 36 and clear in Edison over in New Jersey, and it's 37 and hazy right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
There was a wild car chase in Chelsea. The NYPD celebrates some pretty low crime numbers. Forget Tamiflu. This is the drug everyone wants to get their hands on. A Long Island travel agent ruined some vacation dreams. And the people who live in Inwood may be the nicest in the city. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. People had to dodge for cover last night after a car jumped the curb, hit parked cars, a light pole too. This was in Chelsea. The wild sequence of events happened just along West 30th Street between 8th and 9th Avenues about 5 o'clock. So a Jeep jumps a curb, knocks over a moped, sideswipes a BMW. It seems they may have been chased by police, but we haven't been able to confirm that. The neighborhood, they got a show as a bunch of officers were seen running after these guys after they crashed their car and then took off on foot.
We heard a big bang, and then outside, this car was being chased by some undercover police. About 4 or 5 guys took off that way, and they chased them down.
All the loud noise and people screaming, like you could tell they were afraid for their life versus like normal screaming. And then we looked out the window and you could see a bunch of people running. And then from down there was like 9 cops that came and they had the guy arrested.
Officers brought back one of these suspects who tried to flee in handcuffs. A number of unmarked vehicles were there. They had their flashing lights. Video showed a second man who was cuffed, put in the back of a vehicle. The BMW that was sideswiped, well, that belongs to Arnold Yee. He was at the movies nearby, and he spoke to Channel 7 afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, this is just crazy. Like, I'm just, like, walking back, and then I didn't even see it at first, and I got in the car, and then my friend said, like, what is this? Like, and then I thought it was a hit and run, and then I like see the car on the curb, which is like insane. Like I can't even like process that.
Yeah. So what is unclear at this point is whether law enforcement agents were racing after this car before it slammed into the moped, the BMW, the light pole. We're trying to get details on that. And people in the neighborhood say, well, it's just kind of another day in New York City.
This was crazy. Like, and the funny thing is, like, it happened like right minutes after I got inside.
I don't know. I'm a New Yorker. Nothing really phases me anymore.
Yeah. 5:03. There's another court hearing later this week in the case of accused healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione.
Mangione's defense attorneys want prosecutors barred from seeking the death penalty in the case, and they want some evidence and statements thrown out. Lawyers are calling for Attorney General Pam Bondi to recuse herself from the murder trial, claiming she has a profound conflict of interest due to her ties to a lobbying firm that represents United Healthcare. Of course, Mangione is accused of gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. That hearing set for Friday. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
When we came to the air yesterday morning this time, firefighters were battling this huge blaze in a home in Ridgewood, Queens. Now we find out 5 firefighters were injured, 2 of them seriously battling this 5-alarm blaze. It broke out around 3 in the morning of the first floor of a multifamily home on Madison Street, eventually shooting out of windows. Neighbors had to race to get out of this home.
I woke up to everybody screaming, fire, get out. And then I came out. I grabbed my kids and I just left.
I just heard a lot of popping noise. And it was just me and my daughter. We grabbed whatever we
papers and just got out.
270 firefighters responded to this blaze. One of them was hurt after an air conditioner unit fell from above, striking him in the head. The Red Cross, they're assisting dozens of displaced families. No word on a cause. The FDNY chief, John Esposito, describes the condition of the firefighter who was hit by that AC unit.
He's been transported to the hospital, conscious and alert, but in significant pain.
Mayor Mamdani praising the responding firefighters.
This is the second 5-alarm fire this year. And some of the same firefighters that are here today were in the Bronx yesterday. And we are asking the world of them, and we are so thankful that they are able to keep people safe in this city.
WABC News Time 5:05. Let's go over to New Jersey, where last night firefighters there were moving fast to rescue a man from the Hackensack River after his vehicle plunged into the water. He was trapped inside. Boy, these guys were brave who went in. These two firefighters lowered into the frigid river to begin assisting this driver, who apparently was able to get out of part of the car but then had his leg trapped. They used this flotation device to get the driver and some safety lines to move this driver out of the vehicle and then on to dry land, where he was immediately placed into the care of EMTs. We don't know his issues, if he's been injured or whatever, but it's unclear if he was injured, I should point out. And we're telling the firefighters they're doing just okay, but boy, they were brave. Great job done by them last night. And there's new information about the deadly police shooting and triple murder that took place in Piscataway on Monday.
The state AG's office has identified the man shot and killed by police as Jordan Barnes. They say a relative called 911 saying the 29-year-old was threatening them. When police arrived, they say Barnes was holding a knife and did not comply. He was tased, then shot as he walked towards officers. They've also identified Barnes' victims as mother Jean Marie Barnes and grandparents Richard and Brenda Barnes, all found stabbed to death. Middlesex County prosecutors are investigating their murders. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
And while we're in New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy enjoying his last few days in office.
Murphy, who is term limited and being replaced by Democrat Mikey Sherrill, is set to deliver his final address from the New Jersey State House in Trenton on January 13th. Sherrill, meantime, is breaking from tradition and will take the oath of office from the city of Newark instead of the traditional Trenton location. Her inauguration is set for January 20th at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in her home county of Essex. Sherrill is set to become the state's second woman governor and first Democratic woman governor. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:08. Let's go to Venezuela, where they're waiting to see what's next following the U.S. arrest of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife over the weekend. Correspondent Gabe Gutierrez says people there are on edge.
Questions about who will run the country, as well as America's involvement. Yesterday, Delcy Rodriguez formally sworn in as Venezuela's interim president following Nicolas Maduro's capture. Rodriguez softening her initial tone, now offering to collaborate with the Trump administration.
And opposition leader Maria Corina Machado planning to return to Venezuela, she says, as soon as possible. Machado has been in hiding for more than 16 months, was only seen in public for the first time in December when she collected her Nobel Peace Prize. She says she wants to return home to continue fighting for democracy.
We're looking for peace in Venezuela, this man says, and for the U.S. to respect our Constitution. Exiled opposition leader and Nobel Prize winner Maria Corina Machado, whom President Trump said does not have the respect to govern Venezuela, now says she plans to return to her country as soon as possible.
And President Trump has said the U.S. may have a presence in Venezuela for a while.
President Trump has also weighed in on the future of other countries in recent days, saying Cuba is ready to fall, and the U.S. operation in Colombia sounds good to him.
The legal buck may not stop with the federal case, by the way, against Maduro. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says he's looking at filing state charges against the deposed leader.
Through the Attorney General's office that is able to bring these things, to be able to bring potentially a state case against Nicolas Maduro. You know, he was obviously very involved with drugs.
He says Maduro is accused of releasing Tren de Agua, the gang members from prison in Venezuela, sending them to Florida. DeSantis says there's no risk of double jeopardy here because the state and the feds have separate cases.
But you know what he would also do, and This is not in the federal indictment in New York. He would empty his prisons and send them to America across the border. And we'd end up with some of these people in Florida.
Yeah, and he said with them they brought drugs and all kinds of crime.
So the narcotics, the gang, but also the immigration and what was done to do that, to put people at risk. And we've had people in Florida that have been victimized by Tren de Aragua gang members.
Meanwhile, Maduro sits in a prison cell in Brooklyn awaiting his next court appearance, which will not happen until March. 511. Those close to Northern California Congressman Doug LaMalfa, who died early Tuesday morning, remembering him fondly.
You lost a great one, a guy who was certainly a huge mentor to me and someone who loved this district.
LaMalfa was taken to Enloe Hospital after a medical emergency. He died during surgery. Cause of death is still under investigation, but Politico is reporting that he suffered an aneurysm likely on Monday night, then had a heart attack during surgery. He was 65 years old.
Put his heart and soul into representing our area, and it's truly a big loss.
President Trump remembering LaMalfa while he was speaking to Republicans yesterday.
And our hearts go out to his wife, Jill, and his entire family. He voted with me 100% of the time.
And the future of LaMalfa's seat, well, that's unclear now.
Governor Gavin Newsom cannot appoint a replacement. That would have to be done through a special election. The status of LaMalfa's Northern California district, District 1, is also unclear due to redistricting through the recent passing of Proposition 50. LaMalfa had planned to run for re-election despite his district being heavily redrawn. Paul Mitchell, the owner of Redistricting Partners and vice president of Political Data Incorporated, says LaMalfa's replacement will likely be elected by voters within the old district lines. LaMalfa died this morning at the age of 65. I'm Daniel Martindale.
Let's go from California over to Minnesota, where Governor Tim Walz says he has no plans to resign early before the end of his term, a day after announcing that he was ending his bid for a third term.
You can make all your requests for me to resign over my dead body. Will that happen?
Oh, okay. Walz has come under scrutiny over allegations of fraud involving Somali daycare centers. The federal government has sent a surge of agents to Minnesota in response to those allegations.
I will fight this thing till the very end to make this state better. And the question that I think they need to decide is when did the guy in the White House resign? When does he take accountability for what he did?
On Monday, Homeland Security said more than 1,000 arrests have been made since sending the agents to the state last week. And the conservative journalist who likely blew the lid off the Minnesota child care scandal says he's reporting caught fire because people could finally see the fraud right in front of them. Nick Shirley says his videos showing empty daycare centers in Minneapolis got millions of views and struck a chord with taxpayers who saw millions of dollars being wasted.
You'd always heard about the fraud. Like when Elon was doing Doge, you heard about the fraud, but you could never physically see it with your eyes. You heard about the contracts, but you never actually saw that the money was going there. You never saw the effects of it or whose hands it was going into.
And Nick Shirley says he also finds it pretty surprising that the government did not know sooner about the alleged fraud because there are daycares on every block in Minneapolis.
The fraud's so obvious that you literally just go knock on the door of the daycare and 1, no one answers. 2, if they do answer, there's no kids. And 3, if they answer, they can't even give you a brochure to enroll a child.
And he says he's gotten a lot of blowback from what he calls the mainstream traditional media.
So now you're being called anti-migrant, anti-Islam, all this sort of stuff when you just did a video about fraud. You had nothing to do with the race or the religion.
Daycare centers Shirley visited are primarily owned by Somali immigrants, but he insists his reporting had nothing to do with race. 514, President Trump says his party will break records in this year's midterm elections. He addressed the annual GOP retreat yesterday at the newly renamed Trump Kennedy Center, talked about the challenge of winning in the midterm.
But even if it's a successful presidency, there's been nothing like what we're doing. We had a very good day 2 days ago, too. But even if it's successful, they don't win.
This year will be just critical for Republicans in the House as they look to keep a really slim margin.
You're all brilliant people. Most of you are in this business longer than me. That makes me smarter than you. Because look where I am, right? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see with those midterms. Coming up in a moment, the latest on the Jeffrey Epstein files. There's still about 2 million documents in connection with that have yet to be released. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Wednesday. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Happy Wednesday. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Start here in the NFL. Big news yesterday. Off-season news coming out of Baltimore. The Ravens fired head coach John Harbaugh yesterday, ending the run of the most successful coach in franchise history. His exit came 2 days after the Ravens lost to the rival Steelers in Pittsburgh, 26-24, after missing a last-second field goal attempt, which eliminated them from the playoffs for the first time since 2021. Harbaugh had signed a 3-year deal last offseason and was under contract through the 2028 season. He now becomes the hottest name in the coaching market if he decides to return to the sideline for the 2026 season. His agent, Brian Harlan, told ESPN that in the first 45 minutes after Harbaugh was fired yesterday, he received calls from 7 NFL teams expressing interest in his client. There are currently 7 NFL head coach openings, including Baltimore's, meaning at least one of those teams still has a coach in place. Sources did also reveal to ESPN's Adam Schefter that Harbaugh was expected to emerge as a favorite for the vacant job with the, drumroll, New York Football Giants.
Really? Okay.
How would you like that?
I would think that'd be a great idea, yeah.
Yeah, right?
That's the best guy out there. Why wouldn't you take him?
By far the best guy out there, I would think, as of right now. So, we'll keep an eye on that as things heat up this off season. But I would imagine Harbaugh might take a few days here to catch his breath. We'll see. To the ice in Elmont, Anthony Duclair recorded a hat trick for the first time in more than 6 years. The Oilers Sorokin stopped all 44 shots he faced in his return from injury, and the Islanders handed the Devils their second consecutive defeat, routing them 9-0 last night. At the other end of the rink, Devils goaltender Jacob Markstrom allowed goals on the first 2 shots he faced from Barzal and Duclair, and 3-on-5, finishing with 9-on-24 shots. New Jersey has lost 6 of its past 8 games. The Islanders have won 2 in a row and 5 of 7 to keep pace with the Metropolitan Division leading Hurricanes. Up next for the Isles, they'll begin a 7-game road trip tomorrow night at Nashville. As for the Devils, they'll pick their action up in Pittsburgh tomorrow night, and a couple of hardwood games in the NBA to look forward to tonight locally as well. The Knicks, they're back at home at MSG, welcoming in the LA Clippers for a 7:30 p.m. tip-off, and the Nets, they're at home as well out in Brooklyn, hosting the Orlando Magic, also at 7:30. That's your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time. Coming up on 5:19, the Department of Justice is reviewing now over 2 million documents in connection with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's legal cases.
Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputy Todd Blanche wrote a letter to a New York judge explaining that over 12,000 documents have been posted to the DOJ Epstein Library in response to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. However, Bondi and Blanche said there are more than 2 million documents in various phases of review, and the effort will continue to require substantial department resources. The DOJ was given additional time to explain any redactions and provide Congress with a list of all government officials and politically exposed individuals named in the files, but it has yet to provide either report. I'm Chris Coraggio.
Newly released transcripts. They show the gunman in the deadly Brown University shooting confessed on video to the attack.
Federal prosecutors say he also admitted to killing an MIT professor 2 days later. The recordings were found at a New Hampshire storage facility where Claudio Neves Valente was found dead by suicide. Prosecutors say he had planned the Brown shooting for several semesters, killing 2 students and wounding 9 others during a study session. Investigators say the motive for the shootings remains unclear. I'm Mark Mayfield.
WABC News Time 520. Opening statements began in the first trial connected to the slow police response to the mass shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Yesterday, prosecutors say former Uvalde school officer Adrian Gonzalez was told the gunman was in the parking lot and had not entered any classroom, yet he failed to move from his location.
He gets on the radio and says, shots are fired, he's wearing black, he's in the parking lot. He knows where he is. but Adrian Gonzalez remains.
Prosecutors told the jury yesterday that left kids and teachers to defend themselves with scissors. Gonzalez is accused of failing to engage the gunman after arriving at Robb Elementary back in May 24th of 2022. 19 children, 2 teachers were killed. Prosecutors say the gunman started his killing spree while the former Uvalde school officer remained outside of the school, never engaged the gunman.
The gunman makes his way up the west side where the 4th graders are. He fires shots into a classroom full of children at 102. Adrian Gonzalez remains.
The trial was moved to Corpus Christi after Gonzalez's attorneys filed for a change of venue, arguing he would not be able to get a fair trial in Uvalde, Texas. 521 down to Florida. A Miami-Dade County judge ruling that a jury will hear a then 13-year-old Derek Rosa's 911 call and taped confession to police shortly after he allegedly stabbed his mother more than 40 times as she laid in bed. The defense argued it should be withheld since a doctor diagnosed the 13-year-old with ADHD and autism.
But I do not find an opinion from her with any scientific reliability when it comes to any assertion that the defendant's autism played a part in his ability to understand, comprehend, and waive his Miranda warnings.
Now, that judge, Richard Hirsch, also agreed with officers that they did take care when dealing with Rosa and ended the interview when the teen asked them to.
And now that we're on the eve of trial, seems a little late to get there, but I'm glad you're working on it. I urge you to continue working if that's the right thing to do in this case.
And the judge also ruled that the defense's attempt to keep key evidence out of the trial, they said he didn't think there was anything to that.
I can't find anything from any opinion that his autism played some role in this.
Okay, so there was talks after this meeting yesterday, that talks underway of possibly resolving this case without it going to trial. The judge said he'd be okay if this case did not go to trial. 523, while we're in Florida, Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna spearheading a bill that would ban federal lawmakers from investing in stocks and crypto. She says federal lawmakers are there to serve, not to become multimillionaires.
Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio, 17,000% returns, outperforming Warren Buffett. On average, members that do engage in stock trading on both sides are getting 600% returns and outperforming the S&P.
Luna says her bipartisan bill, dubbed the Restore Trust in Congress Act, should make it to the floor this quarter.
It is the most bipartisan bill currently in Congress. We have people that you would never expect, probably people that you don't politically align with, that are actually supporting these efforts because they know it's bad and it needs to end. We actually have met with the Speaker of the House and that we are going to be putting something on the floor coming up this quarter that will permanently stop the insider trading, which it is happening in Washington, D.C., but it's permanently going to stop it in D.C.
Now, Luna says if passed, current members of Congress would be required to divest at fair market value with 180 days and incoming members to do so within 90 days. The Trump administration adding 25 new nations to a list requiring travelers to post bonds before they enter our country.
The State Department says there are now 38 countries subject to the requirement. Venezuela, Cuba, and Bangladesh are among the new countries added to the updated list, which goes into effect January 21st. The majority of the countries are in Africa, including now Nigeria. Travelers from the countries on the list who are eligible for a visa could be required to post a bond of up to $15,000. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Let's head over to Oklahoma, where death penalty opponents asking the Oklahoma State Pardon and Parole Board to grant clemency for death row inmate Kendrick Simpson, who's scheduled to be executed in February for fatally shooting 2 men in Oklahoma back in 2006. Simpson's attorney says that he's profoundly remorseful for what he did, or that Simpson is anyway.
Kendrick acknowledges the unrelenting pain and grief that he has caused the loved ones of his victims, and not a day goes by without his thinking about them.
The 45-year-old Simpson has been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder for undergoing years of chronic and repeated traumas growing up in New Orleans. They say the jury never had the crucial evidence about his mental health issues when they were deciding the case.
Obtaining a GED, succeeding brilliantly in college courses, composing award-winning poetry, and authoring a book.
And now Simpson's lawyers are just asking begging for mercy.
The coalition asks the Pardon and Parole Board to closely examine the contours of the multiple traumas leading to the murders and to consider the results of Kendrick Simpson's inspiring transformative evolution.
A clemency hearing scheduled for January 14th. Americans are apparently constantly on the move, but where are they moving to?
According to U-Haul, which released data on the number of one-way movers in each state,
deep in the heart of Texas.
Newly released information shows that once again, more people moved to Texas than any other state last year. The Lone Star State was followed by Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, and South Carolina. The top 5 states where people are moving out of are California, Illinois, our very own New Jersey and New York, and Massachusetts. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
526 doctors groups across the U.S. warning that the CDC's new childhood vaccine guidance could cost lives as it scales back the number of shots routinely recommended for kids. Dr. Paul Offit is a vaccine expert who previously served on the advisory panel, says the changes send a bad message to parents.
What you're really saying there is you're saying you can reasonably choose not to get any of these vaccines. Therefore, a choice not to get a vaccine is a very real choice to suffer one of these infections.
Now, the CDC will recommend 11 vaccines for all children instead of 17, shifting others labeled as shared decision-making, even as diseases like measles and whooping cough have been on the rise among unvaccinated kids.
When RFK Jr. says that we aren't paying attention to vaccine safety, what he really means is that we're not finding the vaccine safety issues that he thinks are issues, like autism or diabetes or multiple sclerosis. And every time that's been looked at, he's been shown to be wrong.
But senior Health and Human Services officials say the changes are meant to restore trust in public health.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, January 7th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. We'll see some morning fog, then a cloudy afternoon, but it's going to be warmer than it has been, high 48. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 37, and then Thursday, sunshine, high 49. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are, 34 cloudy in Spring Valley up in Rockland County. It's 36 and clear in Edison over in New Jersey, and it's 37 and hazy right outside our Midtown studios. Cops have cuffed, arrested, and charged a man with murder up in the Bronx. This was the guy. Such a strange and god-awful story. So 38-year-old Sean Jones was walking in the Bronx on Monday afternoon, and for some reason, he just stabbed this 53-year-old father of 2 to death. They didn't know each other. There's nothing to suggest they'd ever met before, that they had had any confrontation. So the NYPD, they made quick work of this. They were able to find this guy because there's cameras everywhere. There's witnesses everywhere. It happened in the middle of the day, this stabbing, along 3rd Avenue at East 157th Street in the Melrose section. So the 53-year-old who was killed, his name is George Ennin, a father of 2, has worked as a security guard, well known in his neighborhood. He had just returned back to New York City from a month-long trip home to his native Ganya, and he's in his apartment building, heading to work as a security guard around 2 in the afternoon, Monday afternoon, when he was killed.
George is nice people. He always say hi to me. If he got problem, then Lendo, he asks me, what happened? It's good people for me. Yeah, it's good people.
Now, there is surveillance video that shows a man coming from the opposite direction as the 53-year-old is walking to work, as Ennin is walking to work. And then there's some sort of push to the ground, and then he stabs him. And again, there's no suggestion these two knew each other, had never seen each other before.
This man was one in a million. He was a diamond in the rough. He raised 2 daughters single-handedly.
Yeah, so anyway, now at least they have that guy in custody. 540. Mayor Mamdani signing 2 executive orders yesterday, one aimed at migrant shelters, the other at solitary confinement.
Now several departments have 45 days to either close or renovate migrant shelters that violate max capacity rules. The Adams administration, dealing with that massive influx of migrants, suspended the rule. Mayor Mamdani also ordered the Department of Corrections to come up with a plan within 45 days to put in place a ban on solitary confinement at Rikers Island Jail. Mayor Adams blocked that law from taking effect last year, arguing it would increase violence at Rikers. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Let's go out to Brooklyn, where a launch party was held yesterday for Congressman Dan Goldman's re-election bid. It was held at the Golden Unicorn Restaurant in Chinatown. He has a challenger, which is always unusual from his own party, and that is a City Comptroller Brad Lander, I should say former City Comptroller Brad Lander, who made headlines last year when he was arrested by ICE agents at Federal Plaza. So here was Goldman talking about that arrest at this launch party yesterday.
If that's what he's running on, I hope he can find something a little more meaningful. I think what is clear about my record over 6 years now is, unlike him, I have stood up to Donald Trump and I've won. That is what New Yorkers want. They don't just want performative politicians who are looking for their next job.
Both Goldman and Lander are Jewish. Goldman, though, declined to endorse Zohran Mamdani for mayor over concerns about his commitment to stopping anti-Semitism in the city. Lander, meanwhile, has the support of Mayor Mamdani. You'll remember the two cross-endorsed each other during ranked choice mayoral primary. So Mayor Mamdani yesterday reiterated his support for Lander in this race.
I'm proud to support him because of his honesty, his sincerity, and the vision that he has shared with New Yorkers.
It's an interesting race to follow because everybody's taking sides. In the case of Governor Hochul, she is backing Goldman in this race. District 10 is a district that voted decisively for Mamdani, which is not good news for Goldman. It includes 2 Chinatowns, Wall Street, liberal, affluent pockets of Brooklyn, and the Orthodox Jewish community in Borough Park. And while we're talking races for election, George Conway, remember George Conway, who was married to Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway until they were no longer married, and he became very anti-Trump, became a social media star with his anti-Trump rhetoric. So yesterday he announced he's going to run for Jerry Nadler's seat on the west side of Manhattan. Now, he just moved back to the city. I guess he had lived in New York for a while. He just relocated back to Manhattan a few weeks ago. He joins a flood of Democrats looking to take over Nadler's seats. Among them are Nadler's protege, state lawmaker Micah Lasher, school shooting survivor Cameron Kasky, and Jack Schlossberg, the grandson of John F. Kennedy. 544. The NYPD says shootings in New York City are at record lows. New data shows there were 688 shootings in the Big Apple last year. That's the lowest number ever, and half the number in Chicago, despite New York having roughly 3 times the population of the Windy City.
These reductions are the product of our precision policing strategy, putting an unprecedented number of cops on the streets and in the neighborhoods, driving violence,
Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch says the stats show a 14% drop in retail theft, a 10% drop in robberies, and a 4% decline in burglaries.
This underscores just how far New York City has pushed gun violence down at a scale unlike any other city in the country. And it puts this moment into historical context.
Okay, but Commissioner Tisch says 18% of shooting suspects were minors in 2025. That's the highest percentage ever.
While we have made historic gains generally fighting violent crime, we have not turned the tide yet on youth violence.
Yeah, and Tisch says there were 25% uptick in assaults on public sector employees. She notes that the number of attacks on the Jewish population almost tripled. So she said she has concerns about that. Jews make up about 10% of New York City's population. All right, in a moment, we'll meet the new fire commissioner. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. And here's Justin Alec.
Thank you, Noam Laden. Start start with the biggest news out of the world of sports yesterday in the NFL. Baltimore Ravens have fired their head coach John Harbaugh, ending the run of the most successful coach in franchise history. His exit came 2 days after the Ravens lost to the rival Steelers in Pittsburgh 26-24 after missing a last-second field goal attempt, which eliminated them from the playoffs for the first time since 2021. Harbaugh had signed a 3-year deal last offseason and was under contract through the 2028 season. Now, a lot can happen in a year, I guess. Harbaugh now becomes the hottest name in the coaching market if he decides to return to the sideline for the 2026 season. I don't see why he wouldn't. His agent, Brian Harlan, told ESPN that in the first 45 minutes after Harbaugh was fired yesterday, he received calls from 7 NFL teams expressing interest in his client. There currently are 7 NFL head coach openings, including Baltimore's, meaning at least one of those teams still has a coach in place. Sources told Adam Schefter at ESPN that Harbaugh was expected to emerge as a favorite for the vacant job with the New York Giants.
Now, the question is, does he want to move to New York, of course?
Yeah, or would he be just living in, South Jersey or something like that?
No, I meant, does he, that's like the biggest gig in the NFL right now.
Oh, you mean with the yeah, well, and the media market's a little bit more vast.
It's intense.
And a little bit more, intense is a good word here, as opposed to Baltimore. But if anybody can handle it, among the coaches that are available, wouldn't you think that this is the guy?
Yeah.
Of course. So
yeah, if you're a Giants fan, you want him.
Without a doubt. Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on that this offseason. Head to the ice now in Elmont. Anthony Duclair recorded a hat trick for the first time in more than 6 years. Ilya Sorokin stopped all 44 shots he faced in his return from injury, and the Islanders handed the Devils their second consecutive defeat, routing them 9-0 last night. At the other end of the rink, Devils goaltender Jacob Markstrom allowed goals on the first 2 shots he faced from Barzal and Duclair, and 3 on 5, finishing with 9 on 24. New Jersey has lost 6 of its past 8 games. The Islanders have won 2 in a row and 5 of 7 to keep pace with the Metropolitan Division leading Hurricanes. Up next for the Isles, they'll begin a 7-game road trip tomorrow night at Nashville. As for the Devils, they'll pick up their action up in Pittsburgh tomorrow night. And the NBA, you got a couple of hardwood games to look forward to locally tonight. Both your local squads back in action. The Knicks at home. They'll host the LA Clippers. That's a 7:30 p.m. tip-off. Also at 7:30, the Nets are out in Brooklyn at home as well. They will welcome in the Orlando Magic. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time, 5:49. The FDNY has a new fire commissioner. Mayor Mamdani swearing in Lillian Bonsignor as the fire commissioner, saying her 31 years with the FDNY's EMS division has prepped her well for this new gig.
There are few in this city and indeed in this nation better equipped to lead the FDNY as it protects New Yorkers.
Bonsignor called her appointment the honor of a lifetime, pledging to work side by side with firefighters and EMS.
In a city that never stops, we are the ones who stand in the gap between catastrophe and community. To the entire department, I see you, I value you, and I am honored to lead you all.
Bonsignor has said previously that top priorities would include pay parity for EMS and improving FDNY response times. Police have arrested charged 70-year-old Anselm Okiki in the fatal East New York hit-and-run accident that took place on New Year's Day. 68-year-old Elvin Sanchez was killed. So this guy runs into him, leaves him for dead. They finally caught up with him. People who knew Elvin Sanchez say he didn't deserve this kind of thing.
He was so nice. That man was so nice. When I had my eye surgery, he used to help me in the stores getting juice and stuff like that. I'm waiting for my transportation. He would, help me get in the car and stuff like that. He was really nice.
Sanchez was crossing the street. This was 1 a.m., New Year's Day, less than a mile from his home. According to the criminal complaint, Okiki told police he got scared after the crash, and that's why he left the scene without calling 911, leaving the 68-year-old laid out on the street to die.
Everyone knew him and liked him. Nice guy. And it's shocking when you hear something like that, especially when you're your neighbor.
Rest in peace. You with the angels now. I hope you got your wings.
Yeah, Okiki, who faces charges now for leaving the scene of a deadly accident, was arraigned in criminal court yesterday. 5:51, out to Long Island, where 4 people were injured in a wild dog attack in West Babylon yesterday. So police responding to a home on Old Farm Farmingdale Road. This was about 4 o'clock following the incident. Here was somebody who was nearby. He says it was just dogs going kind of wild.
I think there was like 4 or 5 police officers surrounded, like in a circle. I don't know what they were doing exactly, though. It's scary because I have kids, but it's just the reality of having a dog or pets or anything.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they are animals. All 4 people were taken to hospitals. Thankfully, the injuries we were being told this morning are minor. The dog was reported or transported to the Veterinary Medical Center of Long Island in West Islip. Police say they'll release more details about the attack a little bit later today. Out on Long Island as well, in Rockville Center, a pharmacist there, Anthony Valenti, says he's twice as busy filling prescriptions to treat the flu this year as he was last year. He says it's bad. I mean, we keep hearing how bad it is. And he says he thinks the cases are going to jump even higher now because people, they went away for the vacation, they met up with family, and we all traded all kinds of viruses among each other.
All the kids are back in school, teachers are back in school, and everyone's back to work at full throttle.
Okay, but here's the story. There is a new drug, or a relatively new flu drug, that everybody's trying to get their hands on. So Tamiflu, of course, is the one that everybody talks about that will bring down the symptoms if you have the flu. But Zoflu is what everybody's trying to get their hands on. It's a one-time, so Tamiflu, you have to take it for 5 days every day. Zoflu is a one-time pill that you just take once and that's it. And so he says everybody's coming in asking for it because it's like big on social media.
Popular on social media, and people wanting the 1 dose versus the 5-day dose.
Yeah, so Zoflu apparently treats the flu fast, but it's less likely to be covered by insurance, and also has a higher copay if you do have some insurance coverage for it. 5:53, a Long Island travel agent accused of defrauding people out of just tens of thousands of dollars and their vacation time. Tavia Thomas operated as the sole travel agent of a group called Destiny Travels, been charged with grand larceny and scheme to defraud. Investigators say in a number of instances, Thomas is accused of collecting money but never booking trips and not giving refunds. Now, this is how bad it got. So this woman, her name is Rosalind Gross Hall. She's from West Babylon. She says she had used Thomas as a travel agent to book flights for about 3 to 4 years and never had any issues.
We used her for a number of years, for about 3 to 4 years. Never one issue.
Okay, but this is the bad part, though. So in July of last year, it was Gross Hall's daughter's graduation. So she came up with this dream trip, a cruise where the entire family would go and celebrate her graduation. So they head over to where the cruise is leaving in Bayonne, New Jersey, and they get there, and the cruise line tells them, we don't have any tickets for you. We've got nothing for you. No money's been shared with us. She said it was just an intense and horrible scene.
The employees of Royal Caribbean was doing the best that they could to help us to do anything to make this easier, because they kind of knew after a while that this was a scam. She blamed it on everybody else but her, saying that it was their fault. It was just unbelievable. My daughters were so heartbroken.
Can you imagine? It was like dozens of people who showed up who could not get on this cruise ship. The family, they did the right thing. They immediately filed a police report because they said they didn't want this to ever happen to anybody else.
It's a relief because we just didn't want her to hurt anybody else.
Yeah, Nassau County Police, they're asking anybody else who believes they were a victim of this travel scheme to come forward to them. In New Jersey, Governor Murphy, using his final days in office to tout crime reductions his administration, he says, has achieved. The governor says the Garden State recorded fewer than 600 shootings in a single calendar year.
Just a few years ago, many experts, and by the way, yours truly, said getting below 1,000 shootings in a year was impossible, but we did it. And then we went further, nearly cutting that number in half.
He says the data shows shooting victims have decreased by about 28% since 2023.
The fact of the matter is our ultimate goal is zero. Zero shootings, zero violent crimes, zero needless deaths. And we will keep working doggedly to reach it. And I know my successor and her team will do just that.
And the governor going to make his final State of the State next week. And we'll end with this story. Strangers up in Inwood joining together to help a dog walker who lost part of her rent money at a neighborhood bagel store. JJ Sorello was inside Inwood Bagels, and she had 3 $100 bills in her wallet mixed in with other money. And when she went to pay, she thinks they may have dropped out of her wallet. So she called the bagel shop. They could not find the money.
I was like, oh my God, my money's missing. So I'm like freaking out, almost have a panic attack. So I call them and I'm like, did you happen to find $300?
Deja got the call. She said to look for the 300, and I came all the way here to check, and I told her no, nothing.
Yeah, so the money wasn't there, and she needed it for rent. So she went on the local Inwood social media site and said, hey, I know this is a long shot, but has anybody seen my $300? Well, nobody had, but one of the people who responded said, you know what? I know you're out $300. I'll kick in $10 if other people will also kick in $10 as well. And within 24 hours, enough people had kicked in $10 for her to get her $300 back. So J.J. Sorello said, I didn't know any of these people. They're complete strangers, but she says she's not surprised. She said people are really pleasant in Inwood.
Like within 24 hours, I got the $300. I was so humbled by it. You know, the fact that complete strangers got together, just to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of an amazing story. As for that lost cash, Cirillo says the person must have needed it more. So she says there's no hard feelings.
There are nice things happening around communities, especially Inwood. Inwood is a very tight community.
Yeah.
I was like, this is crazy. This will never happen.
Yeah, it's a nice story.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?